Most people over 70 have given up on these four things. And honestly, that's why they look so defeated. I'm going to tell you something that might upset you. When you hit 70, society expects you to stop caring, stop trying, stop wanting things. You're supposed to just fade into the background and wait quietly for the end. But here's what nobody talks about. The people who refuse to give up on these four specific things, they're the ones who actually thrive. They're the ones who look 10 years younger. They're the ones who still have that spark in their eyes while everyone else looks like they've already checked out. I spent 40 years watching people age, and I can tell you with absolute certainty that these four things separate the people who coast into their 80s feeling alive from the people who shuffle through their 70s feeling dead. If you still care about these four things after 65, you're not just rare. You're winning at a game most people don't even know they're playing. Let me start with the first one. And this is going to sound shallow, but stay with me. It's your appearance, how you look when you leave the house. Now, before you roll your eyes, I'm not talking about expensive clothes or plastic surgery. I'm talking about something much simpler. Do you still care enough to put on real pants? Do you comb your hair? Do you look in the mirror before you walk out the door? Because here's what I've noticed. The moment someone stops caring about how they look, everything else starts falling apart. It's like the first domino. I had a friend named Richard. Sharp guy, retired at 68. For the first year, he kept himself together, showered every morning, wore clean clothes, shaved, looked good. Then something shifted. He started staying in his pajamas until noon. Then all day. He stopped shaving. His hair got wild. He'd go to the grocery store looking like he just rolled out of bed. Because he did. And here's the thing. Richard didn't become depressed because he stopped caring about his appearance. He stopped caring about his appearance because he was giving up on himself. The outside reflected what was happening on the inside. Within 6 months, Richard stopped going anywhere. He stopped calling friends. He stopped doing anything except sitting in front of the TV in those same pajamas. His kids started worrying. His doctor got concerned. Richard had basically decided he was done. Now compare that to someone like Helen. She's 82. Every single morning, she gets up, takes a shower, does her hair, puts on a nice outfit. Not fancy, just clean and put together. And she wears lipstick every day. I asked her once why she bothers. She said something I'll never forget. She said, "The day I stop caring how I look is the day I stop caring about being alive. Getting dressed tells my brain that today matters, that I matter." Helen goes to the gym 3 times a week. She has lunch with friends. She travels. She dates. At 82. And people are drawn to her because she hasn't given up. Here's what's really happening. When you care about your appearance, you're sending yourself a message. You're saying, "I'm still here. I still count. Today is worth showing up for." And your brain responds to that message. But when you stop caring, when you shuffle around in sweatpants and unwashed hair, you're telling yourself a different story. You're saying, "I'm done. Nothing matters anymore. I'm just waiting." And your brain believes that too. This isn't about vanity. It's about self-respect. It's about refusing to disappear just because society thinks you should. So if you still care about looking decent when you leave the house, if you still shower every day and wear clean clothes and check yourself in the mirror, you're rare. And you're doing something incredibly important for your mental health. Now let me tell you about the second thing. And this one is even more important. It's your curiosity, your willingness to learn new things. Most people over 70 have completely shut down their curiosity. They've decided they know everything they need to know. They're not interested in new technology, new ideas, new experiences. They've closed the door. And you can see it in their conversations. They only talk about the past. Remember when, back in my day, things used to be better? They've stopped engaging with the present because they've stopped being curious about it. But the people who stay curious, they're completely different. I know a guy named Frank. He's 76. Last year, he learned how to use Instagram, not because he had to, because he wanted to. He posts pictures of his garden. He follows woodworking accounts. He messages his grandkids. His kids thought he was crazy. Why would a 76-year-old man need Instagram? But Frank said, "Because I don't want to be left behind. I want to understand the world my grandkids are living in." That's curiosity. That's refusing to check out. And here's what happened. Because Frank learnt Instagram, he connected with a whole community of retired woodworkers online. He learned new techniques. He made friends. He started selling his pieces on Etsy. At 76, he started a small business. Not because he needed the money, because he got curious about whether he could do it. Meanwhile, his brother Gerald is 73. Gerald refuses to learn anything new. He doesn't have a smartphone. He doesn't use email. He complains constantly about how complicated everything is. And he's miserable. His world keeps getting smaller because he's not willing to grow with it. Here's the truth. Your brain doesn't age because of time. It ages because of disuse. When you stop learning, when you stop being curious, your brain literally starts shrinking. The neural pathways you're not using disappear, and once they're gone, they don't come back. But when you keep learning, when you stay curious, your brain builds new pathways. Even at 80, even at 90, there are studies showing that people who learn new skills in their 70s have dramatically lower rates of dementia. Not because learning prevents dementia, because learning keeps the brain active and flexible. So, if you're still curious about things, if you still ask questions and try new things and want to understand how stuff works, you're rare. And you're protecting your brain in a way that most people have completely abandoned. The third thing is probably the most uncomfortable one to talk about, but it's also the most important. It's intimacy, physical touch, affection, connection. Most people over 70 have completely given up on this. They think their body is too old. They think nobody wants them. They think that part of their life is over. So they stop trying. They stop seeking connection. They shut down that entire dimension of being human. And it destroys them. I'm not just talking about sex, although that's part of it. I'm talking about any kind of physical affection. Holding hands, hugging, touching someone's arm during a conversation. That basic human need for physical connection. When you give up on intimacy, you start dying inside. I've seen it happen over and over. People in their 70s who haven't touched another person in years. They get cold, hard, bitter. They forget what it feels like to be wanted, to be desired, to be human. But the people who refuse to give up on intimacy, they stay soft, they stay warm, they stay alive. I know a woman named Dorothy. She's 79. Her husband died 12 years ago. And 3 years ago, she started dating again. People thought she was crazy. What's a 76-year-old woman doing on a dating app? But Dorothy said, I'm not dead yet. I still want to hold someone's hand. I still want someone to kiss me goodnight. Why should I give that up just because I'm old? She met a man named George. He's 81. They go dancing. They hold hands at the movies. They kiss in public. And people stare. Because society thinks old people aren't supposed to want those things. But here's what I've noticed. Dorothy looks younger now than she did when her husband died. She has energy. She laughs. She glows. Because she refused to shut down that part of herself. Compare that to someone like Barbara. She's 75, also widowed. But Barbara decided she was done with all that. No more dating. No more romance. She's just going to be alone until she dies. And you can see it eating her up. She's angry all the time. She's jealous of couples. She snaps at people. Because deep down, she's not okay with being alone. But she's convinced herself that wanting connection at her age is inappropriate. So she's trapped. Here's the science. Physical touch releases oxytocin. That's the bonding hormone. It reduces stress. It lowers blood pressure. It strengthens your immune system. When you go months or years without physical affection, your body literally starts breaking down. Seniors who have regular physical contact with others live longer. Not a little bit longer. Significantly longer. Because touch is a biological need. It's not optional. So if you still want intimacy, if you still crave affection and connection and physical touch, don't let anyone make you feel weird about that. You're not weird, you're human. And you're rare because you haven't given up on a fundamental part of being alive. Now let me tell you about the fourth thing. And this is the one that ties everything together. It's your future. Whether you still plan for it, most people over 70 have stopped planning for the future. They're in maintenance mode, just trying to get through each day. They don't make long-term plans because they don't think they have a long term. But the people who thrive, they're still planning, still dreaming, still setting goals. I know a man named Carl. He's 83. Last year, he planted 20 fruit trees in his backyard. His son asked him, "Dad, why are you planting trees? You might not even see them produce fruit." Carl looked at him and said, "So what? Someone will. And besides, I'm planning to be here when these trees are full grown. I've got things to do." That's the mindset. Carl isn't waiting to die. He's planning to live. He books trips 6 months in advance. He signs up for classes. He makes commitments because he still believes he has a future worth planning for. And you know what? That belief becomes reality. People who plan for the future tend to have one, because planning creates purpose, and purpose keeps you alive. Meanwhile, someone like Edward is 77. He refuses to plan anything more than a week out. Why? Because he might not be here. He might get sick. Something might happen. So he just floats through each day with no direction, no purpose, no reason to keep going. And guess what? Edward is deteriorating fast. He's more sick than Carl, even though he's younger. He moves slower, thinks slower, because he's given up on the idea that his future matters. Here's what researchers have found. Seniors who set long-term goals and make future plans have better cognitive function, better physical health, lower mortality rates. Not because planning makes you immortal, because planning gives you a reason to take care of yourself today. When you plant trees you might not see grow, you're making a statement. You're saying, "I believe in tomorrow. I believe in next year. I believe my life still has chapters left to write." And that belief is powerful. It changes how you eat, how you exercise, how you sleep. Because you're not just maintaining, you're building towards something. So if you still make plans, if you still book trips and start projects and set goals that are months or years away, you're rare, and you're giving yourself the greatest gift possible: hope. Let me pull this all together. 4 things that rare people over 65 still care about. Your appearance, getting dressed like today matters. Your curiosity, learning new things and staying engaged. Your intimacy, seeking connection and physical affection. Your future, planning and dreaming and believing you have time left. These 4 things separate the people who thrive from the people who fade. And here's what's beautiful. None of them require money. None of them require perfect health. They just require a decision. A decision to stay engaged with life instead of checking out. I've seen too many people give up in their 70s and then regret it in their 80s. They look back and realize they wasted 10 years waiting to die when they could have been living. Don't be that person. If you still care about these 4 things, protect that, nurture that, because that's what's keeping you alive. And if you've let some of these slip, it's not too late. Put on real clothes tomorrow. Sign up for a class. Call someone you care about. Make a plan for next year. Start caring again, because you deserve to thrive, not just survive. Subscribe if you're choosing to stay alive instead of just waiting.